welcome back to another SuperCoach video with me, JD. You are joining me for the round one review of the 2023 season. It's finally here. We've had a great weekend of football, especially if you're a Essendon bomber. Oh, a big win today. It was actually, feels weird to have a good win and have a little bit of confidence about the team, which they only let me do just so they can tear it down later weeks. But we'll enjoy it. We'll enjoy it while it lasts. Now, there's a lot to talk about in this week, and it's one of the most important weeks. I mean, the first 2 or 3 weeks are really the most important weeks to set up your season, beyond, of course, actually selecting your initial side itself. So I'm going to try and go through as many games as possible. Now, that is going to be a little bit hard for me today because Saturday night I had a wedding, so I missed a few of the Saturday night games, and then today I had a kid's birthday party for my daughter, which was very fun for her, but not great for watching a lot of football. So I have seen a bit of today's games, actually. It was probably the Crom GWS game I missed the most of. So yeah, I'm not going to pretend to know stuff that I haven't watched, and I'm not going to give insights on players I haven't watched. Generally, what I'll do now is try and watch individual highlights of players throughout the week to clear myself up on them before I make trades or assessments by the end of the week. But we will go through scores and point out things that look interesting. I think we'll also try and pull up some of the CBAs and kick-in stats and go through those. So and then on top of that, of course, like we had so many injuries this week, and so there's going to be a lot of discussion about trade and structure and what you should be doing as well. So I'll talk through my team, I'll talk through my trades, I'll talk through replacements of some of the big guys that people will be looking at, and we'll talk through the games. It's going to be a huge episode. I honestly don't know how long I'm going to be able to talk for, given that I am still feeling the effects of that wedding from last night a little bit. But we are just going to try and talk for however long as it needs to go through everything. But let's start with my team, and then we'll get into the games, and then we'll go through trades and all that other good stuff. So I scored a 2,044 for round one, which is 17,800. Now, I'm not freaking out about this whatsoever. Round one scores are always a little bit of an aberration. It's just natural variance. You can still win from much further back than where I'm placed. It's not really that big of a deal what your round one score is. You don't really figure out until the first 3, 4, 5 weeks have really gone by as to whether you're going up or down. So not going to worry about that too much. All right, let's talk through the team and what went badly. So in the back line, Jones is an injury. I didn't have Stewart, but I did have Jones. In the midfield, I didn't have Laird. As you know, I was off Laird and Oliver all preseason to 700k for those guys where everything's got to go right. No, thank you. And but I did have Josh Kelly, and I captained him, and that looked like it was going to be fine. I mean, honestly, he could have been on for 120 or even more as they came home pretty strong GWS, but got concussed instead and will at least miss this week, if not longer. So could potential trade there. But yeah, didn't have Laird, which was nice. And then had the Darcy Marshall combination, the Roger as we like to call it, which Darcy wasn't too bad, and 96 is okay. But when you had English gone and Wits all going large, it hurts a little bit. And then in the forward line, Tanner Bruin was probably the big letdown. In the midfield, Hopper was a bit of a letdown as well. But in terms of changes between my final team and round one, I downgraded Flanders to Sheasel about 10 minutes before the start of that game, or 5 minutes when we had Big Seven. So shout out to Big Seven. He's got a YouTube channel if you're looking for some different content. Goes over some different stuff and some different sports as well. But he was in voice chat at the North game telling us where was Sheasel warming up with what group, and it was like he's warming up with the halfback group, and then it looks like he was going to run out with them, and we could see on live TV that he was going with the defenders as well. So Flanders went to Sheasel, that freed up money, and I originally put Ridley to Dawson with that money. But with Jones' injury, I decided that going back down to Ridley to make sure I could get Jones to day cost this week rather than downgrading him, because I just didn't like the look of a lot of the downgrade options. That was what was going to be what was best. So Dawson went back to Ridley, which ended up being a point positive move. And I think Ridley looked pretty good today, but freed me up with a lot of cash to make moves this week, which I think is going to be quite handy given the carnage that's gone on. So it's kind of lay of the land for the team. Phillips obviously threw a spanner in the works. He became Hollands, and we'll talk through Hollands. I don't love it, but it's okay. And then I think mostly the rest of the team did all right. There's some picks that we definitely missed, but we'll go through those now. So let's jump into the games. I think I might go through them on oldfootyscores.net. We'll just talk through them here. I haven't got this screen adjusted really that well, but look, we're going to leave it as it is. Yep. Okay. Sorry. All right. So Tigers, Blues, this feels like a lifetime ago now, but the Thursday night game that ended in a draw. A lot of people said the quality of the football wasn't that great, which I don't know, maybe I agree with. But what was really interesting for me was just how both teams were attacking through the middle of the ground. There wasn't much stoppages, there wasn't much kick mark play. It definitely wasn't a very SuperCoach friendly game, I must say. I think there was something like 70 ruck contests total, which is down on the Tigers average. I'm pretty sure it's down on the Blues average across last year as well. And that meant that some of these stoppage guys probably didn't score as many points as you would have otherwise anticipated. But if we look at the high ownership players, it would have been Taranto, it would have been Hopper as the two that a lot of people are looking at. And then Doherty was a very popular pick as well. But Rioli for the Tigers top scored, and he looked very good. There was some talk with Baker going down back, which one of those was going to be go off, which one was going to be given a bit of attention. I think Ed Kerno gave Baker more of the attention, and Rioli ran free, and he was very damaging, very attacking on halfback, and it's pretty interesting thinking about 2 years ago how Rioli was an out of favour kind of small forward, and now he's one of the best halfbacks in the league. Actually, kind of similar career trajectory to Sinclair in a way. That Sinclair was playing some pretty dead roles, then moved to halfback and kind of came out of nowhere and just exploded onto the scene. So, look, he's, I think, around the 500k mark as well. We've got a lot of 500k options with Dacos, Young, Rioli, and Ridley and Redmond that have all kind of went off this week. So maybe just one to keep on your list as to someone you might be interested in. We'll go through kick-ins shortly, which I'm sure he'll pop up in. Nankervis was very good as a ruck, one of the cheaper options, but was there no Soldo? I don't know why there was no Soldo, but they just had Miller doing the secondary rucking, and I don't know if Miller did enough to hold his role in that side. So if Soldo comes back in, Nank didn't score that well with him last year. Keep an eye on that. Taranto was Taranto. So if you haven't owned Taranto before in formats, I think a lot of you are screaming because you're like, how did he go 123 in fantasy and 103 in SuperCoach? This is just who he is. He does not look up before he kicks that ball. He helicopters that thing out of contest like no tomorrow. It's just not his specialty. His DE was 56%. Still had over 550 meters game because he's picking it out and he's just kicking it as long as he can. And so you're going to get these games where you've got this negative ratio, but it's fine. I mean, if you're getting 32 touches, he led that midfield. Let's bring up CBAs while we're here. We may as well while we're talking about him. Hello? Oh, here we go, CBAs. So this website, if you don't know it, is dfsaustralia.com. They are great. They've got a link where you can support them by donating a little bit of money, which is very useful because I think it's one of the best resources for fantasy sports at the moment, for sure. All right, so CBAs, you had Nank, which makes sense. You had Toronto at 80%. 80% is a huge number. We'd be happy with like 65%. So 80% is massive. He was already a lock, but yep, this is great. Hopper is the interesting one here, 65%. That's a decent enough number. Like, I'm happy with 65% for Hopper. So even though he scored poorly, and he did look poor in this game, which was a continuation of the preseason game where he also didn't look particularly great. He just looked a bit slow and sluggish. But this comes back to the point I was talking about with there just wasn't that many stoppages. So for a stoppage player like Hopper, that made it a little bit harder for him to actually shine with the best part of his game. But yeah, he did get enough CBA. So I think I'm happy to wait on Hopper for another week. I know some people are going to react quickly, but I think this is one you probably can wait on, especially when we talk through some of the other options later. So Setterfield and Warple, probably the other two that if you might have just had one premier midfielder, or you picked Hopper and another one, you didn't have those. They're probably ones worth looking at, or even Horn Francis in the forward line. And I think all three of them have enough question marks. I'd rather wait another week with Hopper than I would just do those trades anyway. Short played, half back behind the ball. So look, there's a chance that, I mean, he did play some wing as well, but there's a chance he gets DPP. I'm not sure he becomes relevant at any point this year, to be honest. The role's just not as nice as what it has been in the past. But that's probably worth watching. And then there's really not much else to talk about from this side. If you did have Baker, I think he's a trade. There's very few people had him. Yeah. And then on the Blues side, Cripps had a massive, was it third or fourth quarter to get this score? He was not traveling that well before this point, but huge. You can't really see it here, but 15 contested possessions, which I think was the most for anyone in this game, was very good. 7 clearances as well, which is a very nice number. Sard scored well, Doherty scored well, McGovern scored well. So a lot of the defenders scored quite well against Richmond, which is interesting to note. Have I got, who are they playing in the next few weeks? Round 2, they play Adelaide, so Dawson owners. Round 3, Collingwood, so Dacos owners. And then Bulldogs, which would be Jones, I guess, is or Dale if people have got Dale. But yeah, a lot of these defenders seem to score well. Hewitt was immense. I'm honestly surprised that this score is lower than what it was. I thought he was one of their best early on. And then the other players we kind of need to talk about from the Carlton perspective are the rookies, so Cowan and Hollands. Do they hold? What was Cowan's injury? All this type of stuff. So Hollands, I thought, played pretty well for a wing. He played fat side wing for most of the game from what I saw and ran really hard. I think he tied total kilometers on ground with Curnow for Carlton and he led it for most of the game. So he ran really hard, was working up and down that wing. You know, you'd see him at one side of the ground and then he'd pop up in defense. There was a contest, I think it was in the first or second quarter, where he ran back and flew for a 2-on-1 to spoil it and stop like a certain Richmond goal, basically, at that point. There was another point where there was a stoppage on the wing and he laid a block so someone like Cripps or Hewitt could explode out of the contest basically untouched. And so there are just a few nice moments like that as a player that I really liked seeing from Hollands. The problem is a lot of these, like running hard and laying blocks like that, don't score you super coach points. You need to actually be getting a fair bit of the ball yourself, and that didn't happen. So that's the one concern with Hollands. It's just, you know, he looked good. I think he holds, at least in the short term, but I don't know how well that translates to scoring. The big issue as well will be what will happen with when Walsh comes back. When Walsh comes back, does Hollands lose his role? And to be honest, like, if he does, it's because they're going to push other people to that role because, like, Walsh isn't going to play that role that Hollands is playing. But to be honest, I think, if anything, like, someone like Curnow could go before Hollands. So, I don't know. I think there's a chance he holds. Akers is clearly ahead of him as a wing, but beyond that, I actually don't know if there's anyone that's clearly ahead. And I thought, like, other players like Martin and Fisher weren't good enough to, like, own their spots either. So there's a chance that one of these half forwards gets removed instead of Hollands, who could then continue to play that more defensive wing type. So I think his job security is okay. His scoring potential is just going to be okay. I'm not sure we're going to get a spike game out of him. If you don't own him, I think you're happy not owning him. You can definitely wait another week to have a look. If you do own him like me, you're not thrilled that you got him, but you can just leave him for now. And then Cowan looked pretty good, if I'm being honest. I really liked his attack on the ball early. I thought he did some great defensive stuff, but he came off at, what was it, halftime? When was O'Brien on? Oh, maybe it was more like closer to three-quarter time, given that maybe it was like just after the half. Was it? Oh, my memory's failing me now. So I think the initial concern was that he'd done something like a hamstring, but the talk was actually it might just be more like a cramping type thing, and it was a good time to do a tactical sub anyway, and he was the type of player they could move out. But I thought that he actually played his role well enough to continue to get games up until that point. So I think even though he was subbed out, it's likely, unless it's a true injury, that he actually does get up and play again this weekend. And that's really all the rookies. Let's just have a quick look at those CBAs for Carlton. So was Hewitt leading here? Yep, Hewitt 90%, that's huge. Tom DeConning with no pit net obviously had a pretty good share, but I don't think he scored that well. It was like 100, which, I mean, is okay, I guess. 88. It's not too bad. Clicking all the tabs except the one that I want. Cripps was 70, which is fine, and then everyone else is kind of low. Curnow getting something interesting. Fisher getting something interesting. Silvani would have been rucking. And then Chair and Kennedy. Yeah, okay. And then kick-ins. Let's have a look at kick-ins. So Carlton, Doherty took 4, Sard 3, McGovern 2, Newman 1. I mean, that's really good for Doherty. He didn't have any CBAs though, right? So he basically just played behind the ball, which is fine. I think that's like probably better for his scoring anyway, to be honest. And then Richmond, Rioli had the lion's share, and then Grimes, Baker, Vlosten, and Shaw all took one. So I mean, Vlosten. And so the fact that Rioli's leading is like, does make it interesting. Maybe you'd want more of a monopoly on the kick-ins to be interested in him as an option. But I think that's everything across the game, really. Hollands and Cowan are okay. Hopefully they hold their spots. Weren't anything special, but yeah, they're not the types of rookies that you trade in or trade out at the moment. You just wait another week and see what happens. Hopper, I'm leaning towards waiting another week unless it unlocks something amazing for you this week. And Taranto was a bit of a butcher, but that's what you're going to expect. And Doherty was really good. You would have liked what you would have seen out of him. And him kicking another goal against Richmond, beautiful. All right, next up, Friday night game was the Cats and the Pies, and it looked like the Cats were going to get the better of the Pies early, but the Pies hung in there, and the Cats just got battered by injuries, with the really big one being Tom Stewart, who was a fairly popular option. Let's have a look at his ownership percentage, if I can do that easily through here. Was it something like 30%? Oh, I know there's an easy way to see it off this screen, and I muck it up every time. Is it play? No. No. Never do a live demo, isn't that what they say? All right, let's go to the way that I know how to find it then. All right, here we go. 32% of coaches owned Tom Stewart. So that's pretty rough given what he scored. He is going to be a trade out because he is 3 to 4 weeks away with that knee. So he is absolutely a trade out. And I guess the big decision for a lot of people is going to be, are you going to a 600k guy or a 500k guy, like a Dacos or a Ridley or a Young? And we can talk a little bit more about that later when we get to the trade part. But to be honest, I'd probably be leaning towards like a 500k option and freeing up the money, especially if it helps you correct other things like Jones or Kelly or whatever. Okay, so let's see. All right. So the frustrating thing, of course, about this game was Tanner Bruin, Tintan, who many own. And in the first quarter, he looked like the best midfielder on that Cat side. He was absolutely dominating the game for them. Then he got some CBAs in the next 2 quarters, but less, and none in the fourth. Basically played exclusively wing. And at this point, Pies took over and kicked, 6, 8 unanswered goals, something like that. So I wonder if there's a lesson to be learnt in here for Chris Scott when it comes to that midfield rotation, what that should look like in future weeks. Who knows? He can be a little bit stubborn and does do his own thing. Tanner Bruin is definitely on the chopping block for me as an owner this week because it unlocks other things. I'm not opposed to holding him for another week, only if we see certain things with the team sheets this week. So when Stewart came off and Parfitt came on, that definitely hurt Tanner Bruin because Parfitt is pretty one-dimensional, kind of has to play in the midfield. The good news for Tanner Bruin owners is Parfitt played awfully, and I think he could be dropped. And I'd say a lot of the other Cats mids didn't play particularly well. Like Guthrie didn't have his best game. Dangerfield had his moments, but was missing for large parts. I thought like Holmes was good when he went through there on occasion, and Atkins kind of did his thing, but I feel like they need Bruin in there. So if Parfitt's out, that's big. The other thing, I guess, is with Stewart, how they replace him and what they're going to do down back. So Blitz have played on the ball rather than as a ruck, which we'll have a look when we get to the CBAs, which I might just bring up now. But if Blitzers was to go behind the ball and kind of like play that loose interceptor role that Stewart does, then that frees up more CBAs. So if like Blitzers goes, Parfitt goes, these CBAs kind of get fed back into Tanner Bruin, then like that's possibly a good sign. But yeah, I think this 40% number is not enough for him to be the premium that we want him to be perfectly honest with what we saw, especially when the rest of the game time was as a wing rather than like as a half forward, which is a little bit of a better role for the Cat side. I'm also somewhat worried that Parfitt's an easy out. Bose is probably the one that comes in, and Bose may require midfield time as well and play kind of a better role than Tanner Bruin too. So that worries me. And that's why I'm always like, it's probably okay to trade out Tanner Bruin this week if it works for you, especially if you don't see these positive signs this week. Like if you don't hear Chris Scott make a public apology about what he did with Tanner Bruin in the second, third, and fourth quarters. I think you can probably trade him on, but I'm also not opposed to holding a week if you don't have to trade him or you've got bigger, more pressing issues. Yeah, so that was kind of the Cat side. What else is there worth talking about? Oh, Savarada Galea, a very interesting 19 fantasy for 55 Supercoach. It felt like a bit black and white for me watching him. It felt like for every one good thing he did a poor thing. And I think it's partly because they lost Stewart, which hurts. But also just like a little bit of inexperience as a defender, and like panicked a little bit as well at times, and so he just conceded stuff that he probably shouldn't have. But then there are lots of other times where he's able to run and jump at the ball that he was either marking or spoiling quite well. And did some other stuff pretty good. So a bit like Collins and Cowan, if you've got him, great. I'm probably not moving on from him. If you haven't got him, I'm not trading him in. I'm not going out of my way to trade him in. He's not really a consideration for me at the moment. I think we've got better, more expensive guys in the forward lines that you could pick if you really had to. On the Pie side, I mean, Dacos was an absolute pig. The way he runs into space, like his running is very impressive, but he runs into space, he calls for the ball, and he doesn't care if he's on top of someone else to get that ball. Like he thinks every ball should be in his hand if it can be, which is amazing from a super coach and fantasy scoring perspective. So untagged, he is going 110 plus this year. Realistically, tags will come his way, and he's not going to score this well every week. But if we have a look at his fixture, I think it's probably a little while before we actually start to see some of these tags. If we go by club, we go Collingwood. So Port, I don't think will tag. I mean, they could, but unlikely. Richmond won't. Brisbane probably won't. And then St Kilda, Essendon, Crows are probably the three that you look at, and Swans as well. So these four, and then GWS. So there's like potentially 5 tags coming up after 4-ish games where he probably doesn't get tagged. So whether or not you go him kind of comes down to, do you believe he'll get tagged, and what will his scoring look like in those tag games? How bad will it be? Because he's 500k now, and will you get him cheaper than 500k at the end of that 9-game stretch if you wait? Not sure. I think it's probably better to go him now if you're interested in getting him, especially if you've got someone like Stewart to trade out of. I think Dacos is a pretty nice option to go to. So I mean, I endorse the pick. We'll go through my trade plans, but he's currently in them, so I think he's worth going to. He's just, the piggery is unrivaled for him. Who else worth talking about? I mean, I know a couple of people mentioned Degoe to me as a point of difference, which I didn't endorse, and I still don't. These ceiling games are definitely there. I just don't think we see them throughout the year. A little bit surprising that he was, I think, tied top of their CBAs with Mitchell. But yeah, I mean, he needed 3 goals to get to a 130 and 25 touches, which is not going to happen every week. 8 marks. This is a ripping stat line. But yeah, it's just, I think there's better picks out there. He's midfield only from memory as well. Oh no, surely he can't be. Surely he has to have... No, he's mid-only. Crazy. Yeah, I mean, that's still a no for me. Mitchell was one that we were obviously looking at a lot in the preseason, got to a 109, but once again, this is on the back of 2 goals in a win. Like, 30 touches as well, which is great. But yeah, I just don't think he's a realistic option to score big for us each week. So not really one I'm considering, but just in case there are questions that come up about it. Darcy Cameron's probably the only other one. He scored a low ton. But yeah, it looked like Cox did have a lot of the ruck time early. Cameron did some later. He looked good, was good around the ground. I just don't think the split in scoring is going to give you enough bang for buck, given that you've got some of the guys at 600k that are pumping out much bigger scores. So nothing wrong with Cameron if you started him, but wouldn't be going or looking for him as an option now. And then is there any rookies worth talking about across either of these teams? I don't think so. I mean, we talked about Radaglia, that's it. Let's just have a quick look at those Collingwood CBAs. So yeah, Mitchell and Degoe tied for most. Crisp, Cameron, Pendles. Adams only had 26%, which surprises me. I think they were talking about him and Mitchell rotating at half forward. It's interesting that Adams did more of the half forward mix. I wonder if that changes in other weeks. And then on the kick-in side, Collingwood, so Dacos, I imagine, took some. He took a couple. Darcy Moore took 3. Noble took 1. And that's only 6 points. The Cats were very accurate. So if they'd kicked more behind, it's realistic that Dacos could have had a much larger score just by virtue of getting a couple of extra kick-ins and having more ball out of defence. And on the Cat side, I mean, Stewart was obviously taking a bit early, but once he went down, it split between Tui and Smith. So, I mean, no real relevance there, but worth just having a quick look at. All right. Kangaroos against West Coast, which was ended up being a really fun game. And at this point, like all three of the games that we'd had been pretty good, and this one was surprisingly good. So for those who didn't watch it, North came out of the gates pretty hard and pretty strong early. West Coast looked mega wash, to be honest. And West Coast then fought back kind of in the second half and got close, could have won it, but North was able to hold on in a very nice victory for them, a very nice win after what's been a tough off-season, or tough off-season. Not that it hasn't been for West Coast, but I mean, good for North fans. So on their side, LD was amazing. He was very, very good. Let's have a look at his CBAs. Let's just have a look, because I think the knock on him was like he had something like 80+% last year, and was he going to get that much? And he definitely got it in this game. Like he got 80%. I'm surprised Simpkin had this many, to be honest. Cunnington was a little bit low at 50. Phillips got subbed on early 32. And then sad for anyone that picked up Powell, such as me in fantasy, with just the 18%. Thought he looked really good when he was on the ball, just didn't get enough opportunity, to be honest. But yeah, LDU was amazing. Does he keep this up each week? It's a little hard to say, because this was done on West Coast, whose midfield is going to be up there with the worst, especially with that Yo in the side. So I wouldn't be trading him in after this week. I would wait and see another week. Although, did North have another soft matchup? No, they got Freo. They're playing proper midfield. So see how LDU goes there before you decide whether or not he's worth rolling with. Sheasel was amazing. So yeah, as mentioned, we got word that he was going to play behind the ball, and I don't think he was given much more instruction than just run around and do whatever you want. It's like got given the Dacos role and lapped it up. 34 touches, 9 marks, 600 meters gained. Was very good behind the ball. Just some lovely stuff. Must-have rookie at this point. If you don't have him, get to him. Clark has already come out and said, don't know where he's going to settle across the course of his career, but I think we'll play him down halfback again next week. I wonder why. So yeah, if you don't have Sheasel, you absolutely have to get him this week. And I think there's lots of options that you could trade away from, like Flanders or Tanner or Fife, if you went Fife to get him. So yeah, must trade in. Other interesting ones would be Zeeble. He is something like 350k, and he's back to the role that we saw in 2021, 356k, where he's just behind the ball, racking it up. I thought his defense work was a little bit better than what we've seen in other years, but if you look here, he had 0 contested possessions, which is wild. Normally, his ratio is much worse when he's this little contested possessions, because his ball use isn't at 96%. So I'm not sure how sustainable this is. Oh, we got kick-ins here and CBA stats. Oh, I could have just been using this. So look, he had 5 kick-ins. Sheasel had 3, McDonald had 2. So he still is leading the kick-ins. But I could see them going more and more to Sheasel as the ball user rather than Zeeble. He also had 9 marks out of defense, mainly kicks. This stat line seems a little bit unsustainable for Zeeble. But I mean, you'd expect more contested possessions usually, and then have some of this efficiency drop off. So he, if you picked him up, a good pickup. I'm not clamoring to get him in at the moment. I think there could be better options. We'll see. He's definitely a wait for another week as well. And actually, these guys should score well next week, given that Freo just gave up a massive... No, they didn't give up a massive amount of marks. The Saints did. Freo was leading the marks. Okay. Long weekend. But there was a bit of kick-to-kick going on there anyway. But that's fine. Yeah, I mean, they could go reasonable against Freo next week. All right, who else worth calling out on this team? Charlie Comben, 123k rookie. So very lucky for those, or very fortunate for those that jumped on him. Cherry went down early in the first quarter, which is unlucky for those that jumped on Cherry. That was me in fantasy, and I know some people did in SuperCoach as well. Looked like a stroke of genius, to be honest, after the first quarter. It was very good. 35 SuperCoach off 15% time on ground, which is pretty nuts. But then, syndesmosis for him, and that looks like it's going to be out for a reasonable amount of time. He's going to be a must trade. And to be honest, out of anyone, it's going to be toughest for you, because you've got to figure out what you do with the ruck around his price. What was he priced at? 393k. I mean, so maybe these are the people that look at can you go to Cameron at 450? Possibly. I don't think Lysette scored that well, who was one that people are looking at. But to be honest, I think you're going up to one of the big boy rucks, whether it be Witts, Darcy, probably not Gone, or English. I think you just take your pick and move him up to one of those. If you had a Sava already, I wouldn't play him at R2. I don't think the scoring's there. You'd have to have been in a really unique position to do that. But anyway, back to Comben. So scored an 83, but of course this was basically playing as main ruck with Greenwood then alternating in as well for most of the game, which isn't where they want him to play going forward. So I imagine Goldie comes in, Comben goes back to being a forward, which means that his scoring next week probably isn't going to be this good, but is a wait and see. I think his job security is actually all right. He was playing well as a forward prior to this and even during the game when he was resting up there. I liked what I saw out of Comben, but I just don't think you're going to get an 80 average out of him for 124. So not a must-have, but if you already had him, you'd be very happy with how this weekend went. Only other North player worth talking about is probably... Oh, actually, there's two more, Cunnington and Goda. So Cunnington did not look particularly great this game. His role was okay. Where did we have him as 50% CBAs, which is like, I don't know, you probably still want him to hit more towards 60. But I mean, he looked a little bit old and sluggish, and at 400k, we've seen probably some better options pop out below this. You could give him another week, a bit like Hopper, to see if he builds into it, because there was at least 50% CBAs there. His DE was a little bit, or his efficiency was a little bit off, which is a little bit unexpected. And like, I thought he looked okay in patches. I'm surprised he scores this low. If I just watched the game and looked, I would have thought it would be more like an 80 than a 60. But I wasn't paying that close attention either. Anyway, so wait and see another week on him. It'll also be interesting to see what happens with Will Phillips, if Phillips is going to get a permanent spot in the side. Because obviously Cherry for Phillips isn't like it'll be Goldie in. And then what do they do with Phillips? Is there someone that's droppable to get Phillips in? I'm not sure. He did good when he was on, but he also got mid opportunity that someone like a Power didn't get. And then Goda is the other one that some people jumped on. So just the 57 SuperCoach, which was okay. Kind of played that wing, half-back role. And I think he looked all right in patches. But it's just that there's, with Sheasel back there, with Zeeble back there, with McDonald back there. These are the ones that are going to get the ball. It's not going to be Goda. So people will be thinking about him as a Jones downgrade option. I personally don't love it. I'm probably not leaning in that direction, or not really looking at that considerably. The kick-ins we already talked about. All right, let's jump on to the West Coast side then, which was pretty abysmal. What did Sheed end up scoring? I mean, this seems overscored. He did not look good to me, to be perfectly honest. Did he lead them for CBAs? That's surprising. 75%. It just did not look good. They need Yo in there. I thought Ruben, good old Ruben Jimby, was the one that looked the best out of their midfielders. For most of the game, actually had presence and attacked the ball, and he was a must-have rookie. For whatever reason you didn't have him, absolutely would get to him. Looked amazing in the midfield. What's worth talking about? Oh, Chesser looked pretty average. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets dropped, to be honest. I know they want to get games into him, but I don't know if that was it. He looked okay when he popped up. I just didn't see him for such long periods of the game that I think he's there's potential to get dropped. Although there are a lot of people down the bottom end of the list I didn't thought played that well, if I'm being honest. Noah Long probably impressed a little bit, did more than what I expected. A 63 in SuperCoach, which once again is a very favorable ratio to his fantasy. So how sustainable that is, not sure, but he did lots of nice things. He had 7 contested as well of his 16 touches. So one to keep on your watch list, his 117 case is a little bit cheaper, but not one I'd be going on this week. Oscar Allen looked pretty good in his return, but I mean, he kicked 2 goals and still only went 64 in SuperCoach. So I just think it's going to be tough in a team that's that poor. I mean, and they played North and had a close game with North, and that's it. So where's their big wins coming from that he's going to get to fill his boots? I'm not really sure where that's happening. Tom Cole is kind of worth talking about. So he's about a 182k, I want to say, defender. Popped in a 78 there, which is nice. He's one that I want to go and look at tape of during the week, because he's one that I was talking about the preseason of. He's well discounted on what he can do, which isn't high, it's 60s. But I just thought with the ball living in West Coast defense that much this year, he might end up scoring all right. And he had, 28 touches and 28 touches and 8 marks in this game, which doesn't seem sustainable for him. But honestly, if the ball's living back there, you look at who's scoring well: Hearn, McGovern, Barras, Duggan, Cole. Why not? Why not? Anyone else here that we should chat about? Not really. I don't think many people got on Hunt. Looked okay for patches, went missing in the second half completely. And that's it. I mean, Yo hopefully returns this week and that'll do wonders for them. But Not like we're jumping on you or anything now. We'll just wait and see what happens there. Next game, Port against Lions. So this is the first game that I missed most of. So we'll just talk through plays and scores. The only one I've gone back and watched so far, like their clips from this game, is Horne-Francis, and he looks very good. You can see like the Dangerfield comparisons and why they exist. Burst out of stoppage, like absolutely bodied Neil a couple of times, which was nice to see. But I found a lot of his possession, like he was open, like he wasn't getting defensively checked at all. It felt like by the Lions, like they just paid him no respect. And I do wonder after kind of like a game like this where he announces himself to the competition, like, you know, I'm a bull, I can break open games, whether other teams actually put a little bit more attention to him and he does find it harder to get some of the uncontested stuff. Because I was surprised by how much he got and how easily he got it in this game. Also surprised, I guess, that Port dominated Lions this badly. You know, it's one of those games where you think the Lions midfield will get on top, and it just wasn't the case. So, yeah, Horne-Francis was very good. I probably lean more towards wait another week. I'm still a little bit worried about him, for one, because I think other teams will start to put a bit of time into him now after seeing this, and it felt like the Lions gave him no time today. And two, he did have the preseason surgeries with his calves. It's got the big scars down the back of his legs for, and I just wonder what his tank and conditioning is like. It almost feels a little bit like a Rowell of last year or a Tom Green of last year, where these bigger bodied explosive guys come out. They have a couple of these good games early, but then they start to fade off as the season wears on. And I just wonder if that's in Horne-Francis. I've got no way of knowing. Like, you're only going to know once the season's gone on. So he's probably the top of my watch list for the mid-price forward replacements for like a Tanner Bruin or even a Hopper at the moment. And, you know, with the 136 SuperCoach, like, of course, it's still, yeah, why wouldn't he be right up there at the top? It looks amazing. The rest of Port, Butters was good, but got low CBAs. Well, like it shows here, 10? Let's have a look at what this translates to. Horne-Francis had 67, so that's a great number. Anything over 65%, I think, is worth looking at as a player. But yeah, Butters just 33%, which wasn't good. Rosie's 83%. Oh, yeah. So I mean, Rosie was a lock pretty much all preseason. Not all of it, but close to. And the scoring was like just so. But the CBAs was there. Still had 23 touches. Like you just ride that. Yeah, Butters is very good, very, very good footballer, but he doesn't need the CBAs, and that's going to lead to some streaky scoring, unfortunately. Really not much else talking about, I don't think. I might be missing someone obvious, but no, I don't think anyone's worth talking about there. Kick-ins for Port. Farrell and Burton. Nope. Okay, and then on the Brisbane side, so they didn't have anyone go over 100 in fantasy, which is like pretty rare to see. That's how badly they got beaten up and how little of the ball they had. And from memory, Port was actually one of the hardest teams to score against last year. So we may see that trend continue this year from a SuperCoach and fantasy perspective. So one to keep an eye out for, like if they're playing people that you wanted to vice captain, maybe rethink, because they do look like they've been pretty restrictive. I mean, could have been bad things for Dacos. And then, yeah, maybe Laird as well. Although I think Laird's got an all right history against them. Laird and Dawson. Okay. So then, yeah, I mean, Dunkley looked okay early from what I read, and then seemed to fade a bit. And I think the same with Neil. Like, they were okay early and then just fell off. McKenna, oh my God. I'm like pulling out the receipts right now, but like all preseason, it felt like I had Brisbane Lion fans telling me that he wasn't going to be best 22, or like he was only fringe. And it was like, did you not see him play at Essendon? Like, he's clearly a best 22 at most clubs. That's why they went out and recruited him. It's to help with the flag tilt. And like, yeah, he'd been playing semi-professional, like, I don't know, top-level amateur sport for 2 years. But he'd still been keeping fit and playing a sport where it's like the closest equivalent to AFL. So like his skills aren't going to drop off a cliff. Anyway, like vindicated. I feel like most people still got on him anyway, just because of what happened with like Yo, which is a little bit annoying. It would have been good to have him as a bit of a unique, but yeah, definitely feel vindicated that like McKenna was one of the best. And I think got called out by Fagan as one of their best, one of their shining lights down back. So yeah, very good. If you don't have McKenna and you do have Jones, then I think this is probably the top priority for you, is to get McKenna in, who should have good job security and decent enough scoring. It's not going to be 90s every week. There will be 60s and probably even 50s in there. But yeah, the goods. Ashcroft, I saw his scoring was very poor early, and I think even negative, but it looks like he built into the game as it went on. A little bit tough when your first AFL game's like a big 10-goal beating. But if we look at the CBAs for the Lions, it's going to show good things for all of, I think, Neil, Dunkley, and Ashcroft. Neil 87%, Dunkley 70%, Ashcroft 47%. For a rookie, that's as good as you can get. So yeah, it's a poor score, but I think you still field him. You're definitely not looking at trading him out or anything like that. Have to see a pretty poor game next week as well, and have other really good options to pop up. And then Wilmot's probably worth talking about, because that role is pretty poor. But they clearly like him and want to give him game time and want to get him into their team. You're just not going to get better than like scoring than this. I think it's going to be very slow burn for old Wilmot, unless something happens in defense where he gets to go down there. Like maybe something happens to Rayner, or I mean Coleman got that knock, but I think he was okay. Have to check on that. But yeah, like unless Wilmot somehow gets into a half-back role, I think his scoring's going to be pretty average. He's just a bench option. And once again, if you've got him, it's fine. If you don't have him, wouldn't be clamoring to get him in. Demons Bulldogs. So the reason why I don't have Bontempelli's 107 as my captain, getting an extra 27 points over Josh Kelly, is because I may have been like peak waiting point at this point, and by the time I checked my phone, the game had already started, and I didn't get to move my captaincy over to Bont from Dunkley, which would have cost me a point anyway. Either way, I would have been 20 something points up on Josh Kelly. But I haven't rewatched anything of this game. I watched the like short clips of it, and I've seen a bit of Liam Jones stuff, and that's it. So all of us started slow in this game, still pumped out a good score. Like, trust your old Clary. If you picked him, that's great. You'd be happy, especially compared to those that went lead. Brayshaw was kind of interesting for me because I believe he played more in defense. He didn't get any CBAs, but he also didn't get any kick in, so he seems like he's a little bit of a dead pick at the moment. Grundy gone, so I think Grundy had more of the CBAs, but then also played more forward, and Gawn had less of the CBAs, but then played more mid and defense. And Gawn scored amazing, 140. So for those that got him, great. I think you'd still be hoping that he gets like DPP. He's not kicking 2 goals a week, you don't think? Probably not. But yeah, I mean, the tandem seems to be okay. Seems to be working pretty well. I think they're going to make it work. Other rookies, so Judd McVee, I mean, just a so-so score. I'm still worried about his job security once Salem returns. And Bailey Laurie, I think he's firmly behind Chandler, who we'll touch on in a second. So when Fritsch comes back, I think he's going to be the one to go. And then Cade Chandler was the one that kind of popped out of the box. For those that are asking me about like which rookie to get in, and they're giving me options like McVee and Chandler. Chandler was the one that kept throwing back. It's like, that's the guy I'd go. And for anyone that jumped on him, you'd be pretty happy. He's put up a lot of numbers like this in the VFL last year, so definitely in his wheelhouse. We had a look before the game, like, his VFL numbers are very good, and from the little bits I've seen, he looked good in this game as well, been talked up quite highly, so I think his job security in the short term should be all right, especially if he's performing at this level. Is he a must-get rookie this week? Probably not. I could only see myself bringing him in absolute desperate situations. This is probably one that I'm waiting on another week, because I think a lot of people don't have him. And then if someone like a Chesser gets dropped, or a Fergus Green or someone like that gets dropped, then that's who you Chandler's coming in as your replacement for these types. Petrarca, Subton, not really anything else worth talking about here. Let's have a quick look at Melbourne's kick-ins. Tomlinson, Rivers, and Bowie. Wow, Tomlinson took most. Okay. Actually, that doesn't surprise me. When he has played May's role before, he has taken kick-ins. All right, and then English scored well as well. Kind of crazy, all the rucks went off. Really hurt not owning any of Gawn or English in any of the formats. I mean, English we were on when SuperCoach opens, but 2 soft tissue problems in the preseason, as well as his concussion injury, makes him a bit hard to select. And like, I just can't see myself trading either Darcy or Marshall to him in the short term anyway, because the whole reason not to get him was you just don't think he's going to play 23 games, and just because he's scoring well doesn't change that. So unfortunately, just going to have to sit on the sideline of English, despite loving owning him. Bont was very good and his scoring was very good early, but faded with the Dogs, unfortunately. McRae kind of crept up there. He was, I think, a little bit poor early. Let's have a look at their CBAs because this is stuff that matters. You want to see McRae at over 60% CBAs. You want to see Bont at over 60% CBAs. So Libba up there at the top, kind of expected. And then Bont and McRae is the next two. And then Smith and Trelaw, that's fine. All right. Big talking point with this one was, of course, Liam Jones, who was scoring terribly anyway, but then got subbed off on 5 in the second quarter with some type of neck pinch nerve problem. That's what they thought it was. I think that's like a pinch nerve or whatever ended up what he was diagnosed with. Ended up being what he was diagnosed with. English no good right now. And he got released from the hospital. There's a chance he plays this week against the Saints, which is pretty big because we just saw the Saints give up massive points to Freo's backs. So if Jones is back this week and they're talking about him being good to play, you might be able to hang on to him if you really want to and you're really a big fan of him and you don't have any other better trades to do, or you've got bigger problems than Jones. Maybe you've got Stewart and Kelly and Cherry and you can't fix Jones as well. So if he's actually playing this week, especially against the Saints, you might be able to hold on to him, or even then, like, you might be able to just hold on to it for an extra week and loop him. I think it was Dre from the Dogs as well that had a similar issue with this. Was it in the preseason, the last year? And he was actually 2 weeks from when that injury happened to when he came back to playing. So even though they said he might be available this week, just keep an eye and see with Jones if you are interested in keeping him this week. But if you do, there's a good chance you get rewarded with a nice matchup. And then Baker, I don't know how he played. Haven't seen much chat about him other than like his score looks pretty average, kicked a goal. Don't know. Oh, and then McLean got subbed on, who was one that we obviously all got jumped off once he wasn't named in the side. I don't know if he's done anything to secure his spot, but he's really not in our considerations now anyway, so I wouldn't worry about McLean. Richards, 450k, he scored pretty well. It was actually dominating, I think, earlier. That kind of faded off a little bit. 16 contested possessions, which is huge. Interested in going back and watching his games now. Let's have a look at the kick-ins for the Dogs. Daniel, Dale, Richards. I mean, so they're still sharing down back. I think you're ultimately then going to get inconsistency. This is part of the reason why we're off Dale. Like, was there enough points with Dale, with Richards, and Daniel down back? And I think you're going to see a bit of a roulette to which one goes off in a given week. So probably avoid on all of these for now. I think that's most of the Dogs. All right, we are halfway through now, I think. On to Sun Swans. Must be 4 to go. All right, Sun Swans. Suns absolutely got rolled by the Swannies, which, I mean, signs point to Swans being good again this year. Now, this may be partly because Gold Coast down back is suffering a fair bit. They're missing a lot of key rebounding guys and instead playing Constable, Euland, Long, who had some problems with ball use, especially Constable. Look at that ratio, 87 fantasy for 56 SuperCoach. 23 kicks and you're going at 46% is absolutely horrid, especially when only 5 of those touches were contested. So that's uncontested clangers that he was racking up there, 6 of them. Not good for scoring whatsoever, and also probably not good for his job security. Now, I believe he took the most kick-ins. Let's have a look. 6, yep, he took 6, so he took most of the kick-ins as well. Euland was next with 3, and so was McPherson, and then Long and Farah with 1 each. So I'm a little bit worried about what Constable's job security looks like once Powell, Weller, and Ellis, they're the 3 that are returning over the next 3 weeks, return. How many of Euland, Constable hold their spots? Who else is going from the side? Like Fiorini probably can go. But he would have started as the sub, right? Anyway, I'm wondering, I'm off track a little bit. Been talking for too long and the concentration's starting to go. Maybe have a drink of water and we'll reload. Okay, so Constable, great score, continue to field for now. But watch once Powell, Weller, Ellis returns. Not sure about his job security. And it does play into things like, do you have McKenna, who I think's got really good job security now? What are you doing with Jones? Because I don't necessarily want to go down to another like risky or speculative rookie that you then end up having to field a couple of these poor guys. I don't really want Wilmot on field. I don't really want Cowan on field. I don't want Chesser on field. So if those are your bench, which is a lot of people's benches, you want to make sure that whatever you're doing with Jones is secure. So if then a constable problem pops up, you don't have multiple problems on field all at once. All right. Wits was crazy, went off, but also somewhat expected. I mean, his best scoring last year, well, not his best scoring, but he had a lot of soft matchups with rucks from the other teams injured, and that was once again the case with this one. Hickey wasn't there. Laddams was played for 3/4, then was subbed off for Roberts in the 4th, so that he was then rucking against McLean. And he dominated. He had 51 hitouts, which is an insane number. 13 hitouts to advantage as well, which of course great points. What led Gold Coast for clearances and was second most in contested possession. So he had a huge game. And the positive thing was that you saw some of the disposal numbers lift up, which is what we thought the positive regression was going to happen, kind of go back to where he had been in the past pre-injury. But then you still had all the advantages of those nice hit-outs and hit-out to advantages with the other ruck not being there. So it was clearly like one of the best, if not the best, for Gold Coast kind of led as that captain. And for those who picked him up, durability, great scoring, you'd be pretty happy. You paid top dollar and you got top dollar returns this week. And a lot of people actually, I think, saw that picked him up had VCs or Cs on him, which is very nice. So if you are looking to replace Cherry, he's probably the top option this week. I think you'd rather go him over most other people if you've got the money to get to him. Rail is someone I think is worth talking about just because he's a under the radar mid-pricer. What's he priced at? Is it 480? 480. It is exactly 480. So big knock on him last year was contested beast, and we saw that again. 21 contested possessions is huge, but it was whether the outside game was there as well. He didn't have marks for most of last year, so just the 2 marks, but he did get more uncontested possessions. So he had 28 touches, so 7 uncontested possessions. A little bit of improvement there, maybe. Look, that's probably not enough to go on him, but he just looks so good. Like I love Raul. I want to own him. D wasn't great, but yeah. Miller, okay, return from hammy. Most importantly, didn't re-injure it. And then I think the interesting thing is if we look at the CBAs here for Gold Coast, they did share them around a little bit more than what they did because it's normally this top 4, it's a tight rotation. Anderson dropped off a little bit. Swallow got some. Flanders got some. Davies got some. Fiorini got some. So Anderson looked like was potentially going to be a breakout this year. Not going to be the case if they're paring back some of those CBA numbers. Let's talk about Sam Flanders quickly. So someone I traded out of because Sheasel popped up and we knew he was going to get that halfback role. Very glad I did because that half forward role is only going to work in games where Gold Coast is competitive or even winning. I mean, in this, he still kicked 2 goals and had 20 touches, but just 64 SuperCoach, which is not enough. You can try and wait another week, but you're going to get this inconsistency with his role. They've got Essendon next week, so it could be a win. Could be a win, and Sam Flanders could score very well against the Bombers. Don't take that away. But I think what's looking most likely is if you don't have Sheasel, you want to get him to Sheasel, or you're probably going to end up looking for someone like a Horn Francis or a Zeeble. King. I mean, he scored 19, so anyone that went King, that's rough. But I think most of us said probably don't do that. We've got better options. And there's no one else from the Gold Coast side really worth talking about too much. On the Swan side, the Golden God, Goulden himself, 115 SuperCoach, 99 Fantasy. And this is a game where the conditions weren't particularly great anyway. So you could expect even like reasonably better than this in other games. Warner was good. Once again, one of those 550k breakouts that, I mean, if you look at the 500k defenders, Dacos, Young, Ridley, Redman, Rioli all did well. Richards, 450k, did well. And then the midfielders like LDU, Green, Warner, Rowell, all the ones that did well. Anyone paying up for premiums? Suckers game. Just get all those cheap boys. You just got to nail the right ones. All right, so Swan CBAs here. Goulden, 50%. That's great. That's all we need. If he gets 50% each week, lovely. The fact he's above Rowbottom, Mills, fantastic. And the fact that they won by that much, I think they'll keep with that type of split, which is good. Parker leading the most ahead of Warner and Goulden. Interesting to me, but hey, it's working for them. I guess don't mess with it. Some people jumping on Lloyd or talking about Lloyd, but if we look at kick-ins, He split them 50-50 with Blakey. He's been pretty reliant on kick-ins every time I've looked at him. So yes, even though this is a good game, I don't expect this to carry on throughout the year. And then what is anyone else even worth talking about from a Swans perspective? Matt Roberts, who is a cheaper rookie, for the 12% time on ground he had, this is a very nice stat line. I just don't think he's going to get game time, unfortunately, unless there's injuries, because this team's humming. I mean, McLean's probably going out for Hickey at some point, and Laddams is playing forward. But yeah, this is a good team. I'm looking forward to watching more Swans this year, I must say. All right, first the Sunday's games, and this is where some of the pain came in. A lot of people were pinning their hopes and dreams on GWS or Rory Laird, and this game was a bit of a disaster. Okay, so on the GWS side, let's start with Tom Green, the man that's been locked in since day one, second one, and boy, he deliver. Looked every bit as good as we had promised and advertised. Just, kicking goals, racking up touches, contested, uncontested, tackling, marking, doing the works. I mean, he's just the guy. He's the man. So if you don't have him and you've been listening to me, why? Get on him. He had 80% CBAs. This is nuts. Yeah. Cogs 84%, and then Kelly 68%, which we'll talk about in a second. And Ward, I think, benefit a little bit. Callahan got one, but he played wing like 100% of the game. We'll also talk about that. There's so many GWS players. I love talking about GWS. Even though they hurt me, and even though Kelly hurt me again. So Cogs was quieter in this game, but once Kelly went down, he really exploded. I think he's going to be a good option. I mean, 14 score involvement. This is nuts. Led CBAs, as you saw, just looked good, continued to be good. He's a top 6 forward this year. I think as long as he doesn't get injured, he's top 6 forward. Ward, I think, was playing more forward and then moved on to the ball a fair bit, especially with some of the injuries. Perryman, who went down first. You also had Whitfield get concussed. You had Ware get concussed, and then you had Kelly get concussed. So for them to all get concussed and still overrun the Crows is great. Perryman, I think, had a more serious injury and he might be out for a bit of time. But anyway, let's keep going. Ward's not relevant. Finn Callahan, he's 244k, and someone they're really hot on. He was in my pods video as someone that I was hot on as a pod. And then ultimately just jumped off because wing time and not getting the CBA scared me. And I think he was actually somewhat quieter until later in the game and got some nice scaling as well. I'm not sure how consistent this is, but as we said, like if you're winning, these wings can score well, and GWS's fixture is easy early. So if you've got Callahan, great. I don't think I'm downgrading to him, if I'm being honest. I don't think he's really in my plans at the moment, unless it just became like super convenient. You had no one else in your midfield you could really go to. But I think I still prefer someone like Warple at 300k than Callahan, just given the roles. But for those who have got him, nice. Keep watching. He's very talented. Like, he's very good to watch. And just a couple of his efforts where he'd start a play off half back, kick the ball, a handballer into the corridor, and then run on, collect himself, deliver inside 50. Just looked good. Like, fun player to watch. Coming. I mean, we thought this might be the case with Ash and Whitfield back there, that his scoring wouldn't be as good, but it's also harder in a game where you end up winning by this, like, just to score as well. But yeah, I mean, there was a reason why we're kind of off coming. And then Kelly, and this is 68% time on ground, and he had an 80 SuperCoach, 91 fantasy. He was on track for a 120, especially when they came back in the fourth. He could have kicked a goal. It could have been a 140. It could have been the world, my captain. But concussed instead, and I think potentially a trade for me. Put him on the chopping block. On fantasy, I might have to keep just because he's got Cherry. I've got Cherry as well, but this sucks, man. So ready for a year of Josh Kelly. And people are going to be like, you got burnt by Josh Kelly. It's a concussion. Like, so unlucky. And the scoring was there. The CBAs were there. Like, everything was lining. This was 68% CBAs on 68% time on ground. Like, he was going 80% plus. Oh, hurts. That hurts. This is a like season-winning pick that just killed. All right. Like, can you hold him? Maybe. Who's your bench cover? Like, I don't want to play Hollins. Maybe I can wait to see how Holland scores on Thursday night. They've got the first game, don't they? Yeah, they got the Thursday match against the Cats. So you could put your emergencies on Hollands and Cowan, and if they score well, you could keep Jones and Kelly. If they don't score well, you just trade them. So that's one to think about. But yeah, Kelly, oh, sad, deserved better. Lockie Ash was no good from the scoring I can see here. From what I read, he was open a fair bit and just wasn't getting used. It reminds me of what they used to do to Whitfield and and Josh Kelly, under Leon Cameron. So I wonder if they've just got a new whipping boy here. So yeah, let's see what happens with. There's going to be a lot of outs, a lot of ins. I mean, Callahan as a watch, I probably wouldn't bend over to trade him in. I think Cogs you can go after if you don't have him, and that's one I'll be looking at this week, potentially as a Kelly replacement. But if Holland scores well, I would be tempted to keep Kelly, especially if it sounds like he's going to be back from those protocols pretty quickly. But who knows? I think, did they have to stretch him off in the end? Like, it wasn't a good one. And then on the Crow side, Rochelle here. What's he priced at? He can't be that expensive. 287 forward. Ooh. If there weren't so many other options, you might even look at Rochelle. But who's worth talking about here? All right, Dawson. Did some nice things, but this is just a so-so score. Hopefully he builds from this throughout the year. I got lucky. I traded Dawson down to Ridley to free up money. So I got money and points, which you can't complain about. But if you own Dawson, I think you'd be too upset. I've got him in fantasy and it's fine. Pedler was very good. Rookie worth kind of talking about a little bit. Old Pedler. So mature age and looked very good in this game. Looked good in the preseason game as well. He's just got really bad injury history. So probably someone you can wait another week to see if he backs it up, especially if it's in a game where the Crows are less competitive. Although, have they got a good matchup this week? Tigers. Okay. Yeah. See how he scores against the Tigers. And if he scores well, then it's potentially another option. But he's still competing with guys like Philippou as well, if you don't have Philippou or Sheasel. So, yeah, I think he's sits behind those guys at the moment. Oh, and then Rory Laird. I've got no idea. I haven't watched enough of the game. I'm going to go watch Rory Laird tape at some point. This is unlucky. I mean, I was saying no 700k guys because everything has to go right, but this is just brutal. As a non-owner, I'm just hoping for less than 120. Clary went 124, and it's whatever. That's fine. I got 100 extra k. You got 10 points on a premium I pick. I mean, yeah, even if you just compare McRae and Oliver from that game, McRae, who didn't have his best game, went 107, 108, 107, or 106. Clary went 113. I lost 7 points and I gained 70k. I'm totally fine if that's what happens each week. But yeah, I mean, this is just really unfortunate for Rory Laird owners. This is undeserved how bad this score is. I guess people are going to be asking, should I trade him? And I would say no. The score only sits in the rolling average for 1 week, and you assume that he's going to bounce back next week. If he doesn't, and you're looking at an 80k loss in the next week, I would absolutely trade him in, but be aware you're also going to be trading him back in a few weeks. And I'm going to be trying, if he backs us up with another stinker, I'll be trying to get on him real early. All right, so let's check some CBAs. We already checked GWS. Let's check Adelaide's, and then we'll look at some kick-ins. So Berry and Laird were both 70%, and then they had no one else above 40%. That's so interesting. Rotating a lot of these guys through, Rankin, Rochelle, Saligo, a lot of speedy guys through. Change of pace. Keys got in there a little bit. This is really interesting. I wonder if they keep this up or if they keep experimenting. Wonder if this is partly what hurt Laird. Don't know. Laird was originally, by the way, going to be tagged, I think, by Perryman before Perryman got injured. So didn't need to tag him, as it turns out. Just kind of did that himself. All right, Adelaide kick-ins. Dawson had the monopoly, but Smith got some, Doty got some, Miller got some. This is great. That's what you want to see Dawson getting them, especially if he's playing down back. And then GWS is mainly Cumming. Yeah, Cumming, Ash, Whitfield, Haynes, Himmelberg. This is kind of interesting. Like this split being even. Ash didn't play on from a couple of his. Cumming didn't play on from a lot of his. That's particularly low. If you look at his play on percent last year, I'm guessing it's more 75, 80%. So he probably would have taken at least a few more of these. But yeah, I think all of these are pretty easy avoids as of right now. There's too much sharing back there. Whitfield's injured. Ash and Cumming both scored horribly. Stay away. Haynes went down, which probably is hurting their scores a little bit. I think he got injured. Maybe he ended up being okay. But yeah, if Haynes ends up out of that side, that could be a positive. But then if they do something like throw Himmelberg back there, that's also a negative. I don't know. I think stay out of GWS backfield. But we saw them. That was a game they won. If they end up not being that good and they get pumped a fair bit, then who knows? All right, Hawks Essendon. Now, unfortunately, this was partly during the kids' birthday party as well, so I got to see the end of the second quarter and then all of the second half, which was actually probably the best part to watch because that's when Essendon turned it on, got the show. Like Archie Perkins looked amazing, Redmond and Ridley were kicking goals out of defence. Yeah, it was good viewing. Let's start with the Hawks though. Sicily looked really good at 130 fantasy, 111 Supercoach. This does happen in some of his games where he's got ratios the wrong way, but normally his Supercoach ratio is much better. The ball's going to live down there this year. He's going to be a good pick. If you picked him up and paid top price, I think you'd be pretty happy with what you saw. Even though it wasn't the biggest score of the round, he's going to be a top 6 for the year for sure. So, yeah, love the Sicily pick, and I'll be trying to get him at some point this year. Got him in fantasy for the 130, so loving that. Warple looked good from what I saw, and the role is there. Did he lead? He led CBAs, right? Let's have a look. He led them over Newcomb. Yeah, crazy good. Cam Mack in there as well. Day had 26%. It was mid-price we'll talk about. That's right. Sicily had like 2 CBAs at the end of the fourth. I don't know why they do that. But anyway, so yeah, Warple I thought looked really good. Really thrilled to have him at 300k. If you don't own him, you probably want to see another week of proof. But nearly 30 touches. His tackle and mark numbers are a little bit low. Hope to get them up. He could have obviously kicked a couple of goals. That would have helped as well. But 14 contested possessions led the CBAs. Very good. Happy with Warple. Mackenzie looked great as a rookie once again. I think he joins Ginby and McKenna as someone you must have. And so for whatever reason you don't have Mackenzie and you need to fix up stuff, getting him in would be one of them. If he's on your bench and a trade lets you get him on field, like say moving Jelly out lets you put him on field, absolutely go down that path. I think that's worth doing. And then, Day, some people had as a mid-pricer option. So he did really well in the fantasy, nearly a ton there, but he had, no contested possession pretty much at all, which is, given he's playing on the ball and midfield time was a little bit of a worry. For Supercoach, just the 60, definitely not someone we're bringing in this week. If you did have him, I think you can probably wait a week, get another sample size before you make a decision on him. And then I think that's... Fergus Green's the only one worth talking about on top of that. So a pretty low score from him. Kicked a goal, but yeah, just not a lot of opportunity. And Essendon defenders kind of 8 today. So maybe he's someone that ends up being a sideways out to like a Chandler or something next week. Just keep an eye on him, see how he goes next week. We always said he was going to be a bit of a slow burn anyway because he's a third tall and a poor side. But if it looks like we can get better rookies that are going to score quicker with good job security, then potentially one that you can correct away from next week. All right, Essendon. So premiums, I guess, Parish ended up scoring pretty well in the end. He had, 18 contested and 13 clearances, which is huge numbers. He also led the CBAs. Merritt got tagged by McGuinness, but was able to work through that and still scored like a 92 Supercoach 107 fantasy. So if that's his low in tag games, I think you'd be pretty happy with that. But I thought he did well. And then Ridley is who I jumped on and looked pretty good. Honestly, he had like 10 minutes on the bench in the fourth where if he'd stayed on, he could have gone easily probably like 115 to 120 up. He was like kind of around where Redmond was at and then just took a bunch of time off in the fourth. He'd been like 96%, 98% time on ground before that point. But yeah, if you don't have Ridley, I say you've already got Dacos and you want to go Ridley, I think you could reasonably do that. He looks good this game. There was definitely more sharing of possessions across Essendon's defense. I mean, if you look like Redmond, Ridley, Zerk Thatcher, these are all like defenders that scored very well in this game. So I think reasonable to say that there might be some more scoring. Unfortunately, for anyone that went McGrath, didn't seem to translate to him as well this game. CBA, so Setterfield ended up second with 74%, which is a huge number. And if you've got on him, that's awesome. That's a really good number. Wow, I didn't realize it was that much. I thought it was going to be more like 50% or below, like below Shield and Merritt. So interesting that it was up this high. One thing I will say about Setterfield, you can see in this ratio, like why is this ratio so poor? He wasn't like inefficient or anything like that. But when the game was kind of like on the line and Hawks were doing well early, he didn't really do much. And then when the game was kind of blown open and Essendon was winning, he was running into space for cheap kick marks. And so he's only got 3 contested possessions. 3, that's right, 3 contested possessions. Only people that had less than his 3, Phillips, Laverty, Menzies, and McDonald. Everyone else on Essendon had the same or more contested possessions than Setterfield. And his calling card is he's meant to be this big inside bull. So only 3 contested possessions and 1 clearance number. And it all came when Essendon got ahead in the second half. Means I'm a little bit worried about whether or not Setterfield's scoring is sustainable. And it probably means I actually can't endorse him as someone that you should jump on next week. He is absolutely a watch for me to see what he looks like next week. Might be someone like correct Hopper too. And he might be someone that I'd like, or do I want Horne-Francis in the forward line, or do I want Setterfield in the midfield? Like, that could be a correction that I look at. But I think that you have to probably wait before that, just because the scoring came when the game was like well out of hand for Essendon. We're not playing the Hawks every week, let's be real. So yeah, a little bit worried. It's also like unusual for him to have that little contested possession. Who else is worth talking about? Oh, a couple of rookies here. So Davey and Menzies. I mean, Menzies' rookie price, he's not a rookie. But yeah, I mean, Davey did pretty well, like roughly a 60, kicked a goal. He could have kicked like 3, honestly. There was some stuff that he just didn't take his opportunity, but looked very good. I think his job security is fine. I can't see him getting dropped or anything like that. And then Menzies did well as kind of like that pressure forward, kicked a couple of goals himself and looked good as a mature age body. I'm surprised his scoring was actually almost as high as it was in the end, but I think his job is probably safer now as well. I mean, Waller was great when he came on, but I still think he's probably behind the other 2 as of right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to play him as a sub until his match fitness is better. Also makes it hard for, I think, Guelphy or Snelling to get in. Like, we're going to have to get some losses and some bad games for, I think, either of those boys to get dropped. But once again, I think some of the other rookies, they're not must-haves. If you already have them, great. If you don't have them, wouldn't be moving mountains to get them in. Setterfield, same bucket, wait another week. Ridley, same bucket, you could wait another week. I don't think there's anyone you have to get from the Essendon side. And then last game of the round, we're already at hour 15, all right, or thereabouts. So Freo absolutely dominated in the back half. If you look at this, 171, 154, 137, 100. These are their defenders that had their 4 best scores, which I think is going to be a common theme against the Saints because their tools just aren't their strength at the moment. But the Saints got the win. They got the dub. So this didn't work out very well, and I don't think it's sustainable. So if people are looking at Young, I still think it's behind some of the other 500k options we've talked about. But yeah, let's go through Saints quickly. So Sinclair had a low ton. Definitely felt to me like this role isn't going to be as good as what we've seen. Oh, sorry, I should have done kick-ins. Essendon kick-ins, because Ridley numbers are interesting. Redmond, Ridley, about a 50-50 split. Probably want to see that slightly more into the advantage of Ridley for that primo status. But if just the 2 of them, no McGrath, probably a good thing. Well, not if you're a McGrath owner, but yeah, otherwise good. And then Hawks, I assume this is Sicily. Some others. Whoa, just the 1 for Sicily. That's crazy. Bramble took 4. I wonder if this is persistent throughout the year. Hurts Sicily a little bit to not have full monopoly on kick-ins, or at least have them like a 50-50 split. So Saints had a little bit of a makeshift midfield with some of their injuries, just in the sense that Burns and Bytel were both playing, and I thought they both looked really good. Bytel did more of a defensive role on Sarong, I think, for most of the game. Burns was able to play a little bit more attacking. They both scored well. I am still a little worried about Bytel now, who's the more relevant one. Even though Burns is like 260k forward, you can keep an eye on him. But I think Bytel's job security is still a little bit uncertain because they're going to want to bring Windhager back, and who gets dropped for that. Maybe it's still Bytel. He played good. Like, he played good enough to play another game. But yeah, even though he scored well, hold off on trading him in until round 3. Like, basically until he's played his first 2 games and he gets selected for his 3rd. So you're going to get those price rises. Hunter Clark was no good. So, yeah, I'd be probably trying to move on from that. I'm not even sure I'd give him another week. He just getting enough CBAs, didn't look good enough. I think move on from that. Philippou looked really good, 76 in Supercoach. The one that I don't have and one that I am considering bringing in, maybe even as soon as this week. I was worried that in a poorer team, he's not going to score as well, not get as many opportunities, but they were letting him get quite high up the ground at points. He was even defense at one point, and St Kilda looks like they're going to be more competitive than they have been in the past. I mean, maybe this is more of an indicator of where Freya's at than where St Kilda is, but yeah, I mean, I think this might actually be possible for him to have a few spike games like this in the future. So Philippou, I think I can see myself getting on. Talent is definitely there. It's just rolling how good St Kilda is. Steele and 90. So just looked like he looked okay at times and scored okay in times, but then at other times looks disinterested. I don't know what's going on with Steele. We may end up getting a bunch of new guys in the top 8 for scoring this year, because I could see Steele and McRae falling out, who I originally didn't see either of them falling out. Sinclair might not be a top 6 defender. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but yeah, I mean, Steele and Sinclair both might not be top of their line. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Philippou, one that I'm even considering getting this week. Otherwise, wait and see if you don't have. Stocker is going to be an interesting talking point for Jones' replacement. I want to go by and watch his footage again, just him, individual package. But to be honest, I noticed him a lot in the third quarter, which is when the game was on the line, and he was impressive. A lot of the time the ball came into the defensive 50, he was either there doing some defensive action or helping get it back out of the 50. And for someone that has been, I think, much maligned as a poorer player that maybe doesn't deserve a spot on a list, he looked good. He looked AFL standard. He looked one of the better defenders in that Saints line for me. Maybe I just have a poor read on the Saints back line, but he does look like a reasonable option for Jones. We talked about Tom Cole. We talked about McKenna's a must-have. I think I'd have Stocker above Goda, not above McKenna. But yeah, I think he's an option. If you can't go up to Dacos or a top guy, and you already have McKenna, then it's probably Cole or Stocker that you're looking at, and it's probably Stocker. He took kick-ins as well, right? He took one. There you go. It was mainly Sinclair and Miller. I only played on from 2. So we'll just quickly touch on him. Obviously, a pod for some people did not live up to expectations. I think it's probably someone that you're going to end up having to jump off. Warple, Hopper, Setterfield all look like they're going to clear this pick pretty easily. You can maybe wait a week if you've got bigger problems, but I have a feeling you're jumping off this before end of next week. But you might want to wait another one. Caminiti, Kama, I think tried pretty hard, but not great Supercoach scoring, which is what you kind of expect from 102k. His job security is probably a little bit shaky as well. I think I liked the bits that I saw of him out there, but he's probably not an option for now, unless you really need to get the cash from a 102k to 102k player. But yeah, I think that's everything from the Saints side. Freo side, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't read into those scores. I think this is going to happen a lot against the Saints. We saw the same thing with Essendon in the preseason game. But yeah, Saints have got Dogs and Essendon as the next 2. So Ridley, that looks good for. If you've got any of Dale, Richards, if Jones is back, that looks good as well. Darcy. Oh, I didn't even touch on Marshall. I mean, yeah, Marshall got killed in the ruck by Darcy, and his around the groundwork was okay, but I think they nullified each other a lot. It's just a 1 week thing. I wouldn't worry about it too much. And yeah, Darcy, 96 was okay. It's a bit of a shame because it wasn't as good as some of the other big boys, but hopefully that can fix up next week. I think the promising sign is if we look at the CBAs for... let's do quickly. Oh, did we do St Kilda already? Steele, Bytel had the second most amount, which is good. Clark down at 40%. I think you can move on from him. Marshall, 100%. Good on you, Marshall. So sorry. What I was saying is if we look at Freo here, Darcy, 85% CBAs. Jackson had hardly any, and he attended some as a midfielder. So I think that's a really good sign that he's the number 1 ruck still, and they're going to play Jackson out of the forward line. Hopefully they keep that up, although with a loss like this, who knows, they might start playing around with things. Brayshaw, Sarong, Amira, Brody's kind of the rest of the rotation. I don't expect to see basically anyone else outside of this unless they want to start debuting like Johnson, Erasmus, and giving them time as well. or if they look to put Fife back in the middle, because honestly, anemic up front did not look good. Was someone I was against basically picking for most of the last few weeks, especially once some of the other options picked up. That's just that forward role is not good. You need Freo to win, and in games they're not winning, just didn't look that good. He did get up the ground late and took some nice marks up the ground, but so far out from goal that, yeah, I mean, this is probably just an aberration. He probably has better games ahead, but this is someone that you're looking at potentially moving on sooner rather than later. If you're looking at someone like Horn Francis, like maybe just wait another week just to make sure Horn Francis is the real deal. But if you don't have like Sheasel, then you could trade him down to, I think, pretty much no regrets. You're going to get more points and you get more money just straight out the gate of doing that like this week. I mean, Brayshaw, this ratio is awful. He was fine if you had him in fantasy, not good in SuperCoach. 50% DE, wow. Was Clangers, 6 Clangers? This is crazy. Like, CD hates my guy. Maybe we get him cheap at some point throughout the year. We see him to most years. Brody apparently has turned back into a pumpkin now that he's not destroying my SuperCoach team anymore. And then Liam Henry was one of my guys from my pod video, is one that was like 200k forward, sneaky option. 83 this week. Who knows what his scoring is going to be like? I think it'll be up and down, but just a little shout out to Henry. I don't think anyone needs him as an option. Were there any other rookies in this game? I think we talked about everyone. No, okay, that's it. We have covered all of the games from the weekend. So let's quickly get into trades, and I guess we'll do some captain, vice captain stuff as well. And then this very, very long video will be capped off, uploaded for you to enjoy, and hit me up with questions below. All right, so what I'm looking at this week, I'm looking at using a boost. I'm just going to go straight out. And so part of the reason why I did Dawson and Ridley and Flanders to Sheasel was to free up this money so I could get Jones up to day cost. Now, I originally didn't think I was going to have to trade Kelly to do this. I thought it was going to be like Brun down to like a Chandler or something like that, and then Jones up to day cost, and that'd be it. I just used 2 trades. But I'm thinking of moving on Kelly this week anyway, just because of the concussion. So this is what my trades might look like this week. We are going to go Jones up to Nick Dacos. We're going to go Josh Kelly to Cornelio. And we have 189k, which would let me go to, say, Philippou. And then this 22,300 becomes pretty useful, because if I need to trade Hopper next week, I can get him to either Setterfield or Horn Francis in one trade, and it still gives me the money to get Chandler in for someone else if I have to do that. So I think I might be boosting and doing these 3 trades this week. Let's have a quick look. I mean, this might get played around as the week goes on, but this is first reaction. So the nice thing about this is, Cogs 143 captain, I wish, is it gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 premiums, which is nice. Yeah, has that money still for a Hopper correction next week, but then the rest of this is looking pretty good to go. Yes, down a boost, but I think other than getting premiums into your side early by boosting, the other most beneficial time to use a boost is these first couple of rounds to fix up the team into the structure that you should have or want to have. And given we've got these injuries and other stuff going on, I think it's as good a time now as any to use those to make your team look how you want it to. Now, in terms of captain, vice captain this week, I have a feeling I'll probably go back to well with Dunkley against the D's. But what else is there? I mean, if you've got Rory Laird, I think vice captaincy against Richmond makes sense this week. They've been notorious to give up points. Dogs have Saints, so maybe like a Bont or McRae could be a reasonable option there. And then GWS have West Coast. So Cogs or Tom Green as a captain option is actually pretty interesting this week, given that Madden's my loophole. And I can't see myself really going anywhere else. I don't fancy Doherty against the Cats. Goulden against the Hawks is a pretty spicy vice captain option if you want to look for something a little bit different. Darcy is against North, but I assume that they're going to play Goldie as the ruck, which isn't that appealing. Yeah, I think that's where I'd be looking. Oliver against nah, if you've got Oliver, you probably not. I mean, you could vice captain him against the Brisbane Lions. Yeah, but maybe it's something like this. Vice captain Bont into C Cornelio or C Green. But yeah, I mean, I think the other thing, as I've kind of mentioned with the trades, is so Cowan and Hollands play that first game, so I can have the emergencies on these two for me anyway. See how they score, and if they score well, then do the trades. The problem is Brunn's also in that game, so I'd actually have to do the Tannenbrunn trade already. But with the way trades works now, I could just swap these around afterwards. So maybe I keep like the Brunn to Philippou trade, but then play around with some of these other ones. I think that's possible. All right, so quickly then, just talking about some of the players that you'd be looking at trading out and some of the best options, I think. Look, obviously this changes with the structure of your team and the combination of different injuries that you've got going on. But in terms of in defense, I think the must-haves have got to be McKenna and Ginbey. If you don't have those in the mids, it's McKenzie, and in the forwards, it's Sheasel. If you've got all those 4 rookies, that's great. You're off to a good starting point. So then Jones, I think if you're looking at somebody's price range, it's probably Stocker or maybe Cole, but like I don't even feel comfortable doing that, assuming you've already got McKenna. Otherwise, I'm trying to get Jones to someone like Dacos, Ridley, Doherty, Sicily, Dawson. They're probably like the 5 that I'd be looking at. If you've got Stewart, it's similar. It's going to be those 5. Whether you keep him at a 600k guy or a 500k guy now, probably depends on how much value you see in the 500k guys and whether the extra money now actually enables something. In the midfield, I probably wouldn't be trading Rory Laird, and Josh Kelly, I think, is up to the individual whether they want to hold his concussion for a week. His scoring was good enough and his CBAs were good enough that I have a feeling he'll be useful for us at some point, but just whether or not you want to wait for that versus trading now. Normally I'd probably hold that type of stuff, but I'm just a bit worried about like fielding Hollands, which I mean, I guess that's the whole thing. I get to see Friday night scores first and then make a call. If he goes 80, then I'm probably more comfortable holding Kelly a week, but Cogs against this soft opposition with no Kelly on the side just makes me think he's going to score really well. Then Cherry, yeah, I've spoken about Cherry a bit, but I think you just have to get him up. Like I wouldn't be playing Asava R2, so I'm looking at getting him up. If you've got him to Wits, English, Darcy is probably the 3, assuming that you've already got Marshall, which most people have. Probably not gone. I mean, he's good enough to keep scoring at these crazy levels. Yeah, probably not. That's probably not my type of pick. With a big, good second ruck that he's splitting CBAs with, like just. Not my cup of tea. Fife, probably a trade. I don't think you like have to trade. And then most of the other 300k guys that flopped. So Ash, Wanganeen Malira, Tannenbrunn, Flanders. I think you can trade them this week if you really want to, but it's also perfectly fine if you've got not much else going on to just wait and see. But if you're in a situation like me where like I've made these 3 trades and I still might need to make a trade on Hopper next week or potentially a couple of rookies, then I'm happy to bank these trades now and use 0 or 1 next week if it turns out that everything fails, rather than need to use 5 trades next week and only have 3, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about at the moment. Captain, vice captain, the loophole setups with Cowan and Hollands and how that can work with Jones and whatnot. But yeah, I think that's everything for this week. It has been an hour and a half that I've got to spend with you guys, which is fantastic. If you're still listening at this point, please let me know below that you actually made it to this point in the video. I should give you like a code word. I don't know, like jelly rules. Maybe type jelly rules if you made it to this part of the video, and let me know questions you have about like your team's specific trade situations, all that type of stuff. Me and the Fantasy Take TV boys, I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that this week. There's a lot to go through. It's been a hard week for everyone. Everyone's got stuff that they need to fix up, but it's just about how you respond and bounce back from this is what's going to differentiate where you score for the rest of the year. So hope you're all doing well. Hope you enjoyed having footy back. Even if SuperCoach hasn't been the most pleasant week 1, hit me up with your questions below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks as always. Peace.